Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Lost Beat 6 show. This is Stephen. Great to have you in. We're glad you're here. We have a great show this week with Derek Scott, better known to the world as DUBS. And if you don't know DUBS, this is a guy you need to get to know. He's such a nice guy and really knows his way around town, with the best intentions of that phrase. Anyway, a couple things going on this week. We did a little bit of a collaboration with David Sparrow and the Tens, and the Tens have released their collaboration with David Sparrow and David's song "Lost in the Past," which was recorded about a week before we released the album "Beggars and Choosers," and you should go check it out. I'll have some links in the bio, I'll have links in the show notes rather. Please check that out because I think that it sounds wonderful. They did a great job on it, and I'm happy they're sharing it with us. And other quick news, Big Die is releasing their first album titled Volume 1. We just did an interview with them with our own Terry Gross. He had a great time chatting with the guys, and that should be coming out Thursday. So keep an eye out for that podcast coming out Thursday to promote the album coming out Friday, which is also a Bandcamp Friday, which means the waivers are all being released. The fees are being waived by Bandcamp, and we can make a little more money if everybody decides to pitch in and buy the record on Bandcamp. Anyway, we're going to continue on with Making the Scene here, our deep dive collaboration, exploration, and celebration of the PLaNETS collective from Alhambra, California. And this week, as you know, is the much highly anticipated Derek Scott. I'm just going to call him DUBS from now on because people who are listening know who I'm talking about. And anybody who's listening who don't know, you will get to know. And we sat down and we talked about some crazy Alhambra stories featuring Jack in the Box. We mentioned, we talked about his band, Beers for Fears, which you should definitely check out. There's some links in the show notes as well for that. He mentioned we made a point to make sure we made a shout out to a couple places he's into. He's really got a finger on the pulse of the food scene in Los Angeles as well. So we made a point to make sure we mentioned a couple of restaurants that you should go support while restaurants are having a tough time. So I'm going to go ahead and stop talking. So let's go ahead and start the show. All right. DUBS, dude, welcome.
Welcome, man. Thank you for inviting me on the mini series.
Yeah. Thank you for also you've been a great supporter of the show. But you have been a most anticipated guest, so I'm really happy you're here.
Oh gosh, I'm nervous.
Don't be.
All right.
I know. In the time that I've known you, you've been almost everywhere. If there's a show to be had, you're at it, or at the time, of course.
Right.
Why don't we start from the beginning and kind of explain how you found yourself being such a man about town, and also how you got yourself involved into the gravitational pull that is PLaNETS.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So basically, I'll preface it with I've always been a huge fan of just music in general. It's just like live, breathe, sleep music, originally I grew up and I spent a good chunk of my time living in Northern California, mostly in this area called Chico. There was not not much of a live music scene there. So it was kind of like one of those things where like when there was music available and a band I wanted to see, I made sure that I saw them. Otherwise, I'd have to wait like another year sometimes, depending if it was people just passing through. So I went from that I moved to Los Angeles in 2009. Kind of, I would say it took until like 2010 until I was really just kind of like comfortable with the city and just started trying to go to every show that I could. And so initially it ended up being, bigger bands that I had followed. And actually, I should probably mention, because they're an integral part of this, and I don't know, I'm sure maybe some of these folks will be involved with it, but the initial path to Planets was through a band called the Janks. And so they kind of fueled my live music appetite, if you will.
Sure.
And so they were such a prolific band, and they would sometimes play multiple shows in a night. Definitely, like, there were periods of time where they would play, like, gosh, sometimes three to four or five shows like a week. And so just like I found myself in the opportunity where basically where it's just like I came from growing up and being able to go see a show a month if I was lucky, to like being able to see like 5 to 6 shows in a week. So I definitely took advantage of that. And yeah, and it just so happened that Zach from the Janks was the person that told me about Planets. And I believe it was like initially, Planets has has a kind of a rotating cast of characters coming in and out. And Zach, I believe, had played guitar with them on several occasions. And so when he recommended that was a band that I needed to see, I jumped on it. And I knew immediately, because there's certain people that when they recommend you music, that when they're recommending you music, that it's something that you need to see, and so
yes, yeah,
immediately I was hooked. I think I saw my first Planets show, I think it was like December 2012, somewhere in that time.
Okay, yeah.
And interestingly enough, for timeline wise, I think the first time I ever saw the Janks was like March of 2012. So it wasn't like too far long. Like, I think that whole year, like, I probably saw more shows than I've ever seen in my life. There's an old Janks joke that I had been to more shows than the band had. Like, it was just like, that's not possible. But it was just like, so yeah. So to say that I'm a huge fan of live music is definitely an understatement.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I was hooked from the get-go.
Where was the first place you saw them?
I believe it was at Casey's, and which was fitting because Casey's definitely became like a second home to me, and I probably saw the most Planet shows there, and so like it was very fitting. And I believe the show that I saw, I think the Janks were also on the same bill, so it was heaven to me, seeing the band that that I saw as much as I could play with this new band that I immediately loved. It was just like, oh my gosh, it was amazing.
So that being said, what was I'm using that gravitational pun a lot, but what do you think was the pull in that kind of what do you think made that whole group so special?
I gotta say, it's just like, oh gosh, it's gonna sound really cheesy to say, but like I just rewatched Shrek recently, and like the first thing that comes to mind is that phrase. It's just like, they have layers, like an onion.
Yeah, layers, right.
They have so many layers, so many facets, and like it's just like each of those layers and each of those facets are unique, but they're all like on their own right, like striking, like they have, it's like they're the total package. I mean, they're like visually, and like audio wise, like they have the songs, they have the presence, they have the people, like the dancing, the presentation, like it's just like it's basically the way I can put it is that it's like any one of those things somebody excelling at like will get somebody's attention. But like when you're just doing all of those things at once, it's just like they really only had to do like one of those things to draw me in. But the fact that they're doing all of these amazing things that just every one of your senses are just like pushed to 11. You're just like, holy crap, what is happening? And you're just like, you're like a moth drawn to like a flame, and you're just like, you can't turn away, you know?
I like that. I like that. There's been, I've been asking everybody. I think you might be, at this point, maybe the 6th or 7th person I've talked to about this. So it's been kind of a very consistent format of just sort of, we can't explain it. It's kind of magical kind of thing, which is really, it's what kind of social chemistry that all works together as. It seems like everybody I've also talked to has been a transplant in one way or another. And so that's been kind of an interesting thing for me, not being, because I'm technically not a transplant. I live in Ventura. So I go to Los Angeles for shows or for work, or sometimes they're both, you know. So it's sort of an effort for me to go down there. And it seemed like everybody was, you know, East LA is kind of Alhambra is kind of a drive for a lot of people. Were you living in Hollywood at the time? Where were you living at the time you were frequenting the house?
I was living in Hollywood. I'm still living in Hollywood. Okay. I just really appreciate. Yeah, it's like for me, it's such a great. I mean, LA is massive, and like Hollywood for me is just like it feels like it's like the center of Los Angeles. So I love it because it's you know, it's home base, so I can get to just about anywhere that I need to go fairly easily. So yeah, so it was super easy for me, like especially with those Casey's shows. For me, like I live about 15 minutes away from the Red Line. I would just jump on the Red Line.
Okay.
I would be like a couple of blocks. It gets off 7th and I forget the cross right now, but like the 7th and Metro Station, and boom, like 5-minute walk from there. So for me, it was heaven because I could go to this show, take the Metro back home, no big deal.
You don't have to drive. Oh, that makes so much more sense now.
Yeah.
When I think about it.
So it was easy. It was cake. You know, and it was just for me, like, you know, coming from a place where there was like rarely any shows and not a lot of accessible like transportation, like just like night and day, you know, it's crazy.
I'm surprised because Chico's kind of it's a college town, right?
Yeah. I mean, they had like a bus system.
But even like a live college thing, it's just, you know.
I mean, it was rare. There were a couple of kind of like underground venues, but it wasn't anything like the music scene here. Like it's just like night and day. I mean, maybe it's changed. Maybe there's, well, not during these times, but maybe maybe they had some more venues. But at the time when I was there, I felt like there was a huge lack of musical entertainment being like, you know, as big as, you know, that city is in NorCal, but
it's all good. Yeah. I've been mentioning on this show, I've had a very cynical approach to music venues in Los Angeles in general, just based on, I don't know, elements of what would be considered like classic venues off the strip, or on the strip rather, just sort of hard to gain traction that can maintain some sort of momentum to expand on, you know. And it took a while for me to find out certain places. How did you end up finding the venues that became, you know, like the hotel cafes, the Casey's, all the Silver Lake spots? Did those you know, how long did it take you to find those places?
I don't know. I feel like it was kind of organic. So for me, I felt like so where I had mentioned that, you know, that the Janks had become kind of my music obsession, and they had played so many venues. I feel like a lot of the venues in Los Angeles, I found out about them because of the Janks. Like they had, so I feel like that was I feel like I didn't have to do a lot of legwork on that, because I was just like, oh, I saw them play a show there, or there'll be a venue where it's like, oh, that place sounds familiar, and it's like, oh, it used to be this other venue, or like, so like I feel like, yeah, I went through like a period of time, especially I feel like in 2012, where I probably went to or discovered like so many venues. At one point, I was going to try to make some sort of like LA music venue map, and then I just kind of like lost interest in it. But still, maybe
it's rewritable now. You might
right? Yeah, exactly. Maybe.
Yeah, I was talking to Joe last week, and I think I was trying to test the waters to see if there was any idea if there was some sort of venue she wanted to open, or she would be sort of a another curator of sorts. And it's always interesting to see. I think between you and I'll say this as well. Yeah. You have that. I mean, on top of being a huge fan and a sort of major connector, like Malcolm Gladwell style. You also have, you've been credited for helping with the content itself. I mean, because all those videos are combination, edits between stuff you shot on I'm assuming your phone, and stuff that Kim was shooting and things like that. So you're also just a part of making, you're also documenting this stuff as well. And that's huge.
Yeah. It's funny because I think it started out as being one of those things where like I had initially started recording a lot of video on my phone just to kind of like document things and like be like, it's like, I want to be able to see this later. I discovered how big it was to just be able to like record video and be like, be able to play back a performance was huge. And those kind of first experiments of doing that on a phone actually got me more into doing looking for ways to capture more quality video, and I think I had ended up purchasing like a digital SLR camera, and so I don't remember which videos, but there's definitely some videos where like I recorded some like high quality SLR camera footage. I think in the Troubadour show, I snuck in a GoPro. So there's like some random GoPro footage from some weird, okay, like crazy, like panoramic angles. So it's just like, I've always had a love of technology and digital photography and music. And so I just kind of married all those things together. And it's just like, music is just one of those ways that just like, I get to like play around with like all the things that I enjoy,
Was that something that was you just did on your own, or was commissioned by like the bands? Like, hey, if you could do this for us, that'd be awesome.
I think they definitely asked me to help out with the Troubadour show. Okay. I think with other stuff like satellite stuff, it was basically, found footage, and it's just like,
okay, cool. Yeah.
Or I had heard that other people were like doing some video, and I can't remember. I know definitely some of it was like, commission asked to film stuff.
Okay. Yeah, because that's like a thing that I've been marveling at, and is the amount of communal organization that goes involved with all of this, and the things like when I talked with Nathaniel and Nicholas about just what would go into it, how everybody had their little departments and filters and things that go into that. It's amazing how effortless and organized and it all appeared. So
right.
that it's like, how did they do that? That's I mean, like just a matter of having the visual brand at all times. I remember going to the satellite on non-planets those Mondays.
The residencies?
The residencies on Mondays, but I didn't see the planets, but I forgot they're no charge, or there's no drink tab or whatever. There's no, it's free.
Oh, right. Yeah, the free yeah.
Yeah, those Monday nights, and I just remember seeing on the television monitors that would be promoting, the next months in advance of what's happening. It's like that was always a band that stuck out on a brand level between all the different characters and the logo and all that stuff. So anyway, and I know you were a frequenter of their major hangouts at the house. Is there anything you can enlighten or divulge or juicy beats or
divulge the secrets?
Oh no, just this is some crazy party. I just want crazy party stories. That's all.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Let's see. Always involved a little bit of drinking and listening to some music. Some of my favorite times were the Alhambra Hangouts after show parties. Those were always fun. I've definitely posted about it a bit, but I don't know if you're familiar. Like, one of my favorite things that had happened was, so part of the after show ritual is they would go to a Alhambra Jack in a Box to get the Jack in a Box dollar tacos, or $2 for $1. So I think
it's two for 99 cents. I think.
That's what the two. Yeah. So
don't ask me how I know that.
You're a fellow fan. Like,
no, there's one way to put it.
Right. No. So it's funny. So they were known for doing this, right? And so I don't remember how this came about. I don't remember the genesis of this, but I had gotten it into my brain where on one of these said trips, I had noticed we had been gradually like getting more and more of the tacos, like bigger quantities, and I think I was just like, we should get 50 tacos, and they were like, no, that's crazy, that's insane. Since they knew the people of that Jack in a Box, and it's like, just because they knew them, I don't think anybody else could have done this, or it would have taken them a lot more convincing. But we got the Jack in a Box Alhambra crew to get to let us order 50 tacos. And so it was a big thing. And I think we gradually, we took it up another notch. And at one point we went to 100 tacos.
Oh my goodness.
But that was the Jack in a Box taco legacy. I will never forget. There's some photo where, oh God, what is it? It's like the Burt Reynolds pose, and I'm like covered in like the Jack in a Box taco wrappers, and it's fucking hilarious. So it's just like it's just one of the funniest like images, and it will never fail to make me laugh.
We like to call those tacos the fancy feast,
Fancy feast,
like the cat food.
Oh, that's hilarious
because it looks like cat food, and it doesn't taste like cat food, but you get that
right. Well, they were always more palatable. So the other thing is, like, we would always like load up with the most amount of ranch and hot sauce that they would give us. We would literally have separate bags of just the condiments. So so we would definitely load those up so that you wouldn't see the tacos underneath all the sauce. But it was so good. Quality.
The last decade or so, I've kind of gone to call Jack in the Box, with KFC at a close second, the official food of the self-loathing. And I'm having a hard time processing this because it's such a all these people are so positive and inclusive, and this is so I might have to rethink my judgment on this Jack in the Box story here. No, on Jack in the Box, not on them, not on Planets or you guys.
Oh, okay, good.
No, yeah.
So what you're saying, now Jack in the Box could be a huge source of positivity that you did not even consider, is what you're saying.
Possibly, yeah. It's not.
Yes, this is awesome.
So, and I've never. There's always been a time where I'm like, the tacos. Or you can always get the tacos late at night, whatever, But it's that one. It's those. You're driving. For me, anyway, you're driving late at night. I'm driving home late at night off a job or a gig, and it's just there and it's open, and you know what you want. It's nothing like, I'm gonna get one of those teriyaki bowls with the broccoli and stuff. It's like, no, you're getting the tacos and you're getting some like, some small junior bacon cheeseburgers slathered in ketchup and mayo and in microwave bacon, man. It's what you're getting, Although I will say, I think the last time, I think you and I actually went after, I think it was a King Washington gig or maybe a Delta's gig. I remember you taking us. I think maybe King Washington, because I think Tyson, came with us. But it was that place off of Cahuenga at the Hotel Cafe. It was like a burger and brew joint.
Yeah, stout.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes.
That's it.
Oh,
yeah.
That place, best burgers, so good.
Yeah. So I know. You have a very very good palate. So
I do. I do like good food, but then I also appreciate garbage food as well.
I think I don't think they'll mind me mentioning this. I went to last time I think not too long ago I was in Tennessee seeing Zach and Dylan working on one of their projects, and I think how they're very very health conscious about what they eat and
yes.
Organics and. I think Dylan is mostly vegan, and I went. I think I stayed. I was staying because of the COVID orders. I was staying at that just staying in the house. I wasn't going anywhere. But they bring back. Like, oh, we're going to Taco Bell. I'm like, what? Oh yeah, we love that's the only like road vice we have is Taco Bell.
That's
and
awesome.
I'm like, all right, mate, that's fine. I didn't think about it twice. Like, oh yeah, I guess that's something they would do. But everybody's got one for sure. I'm sure there's something I have to think about it. It depends on, like, especially with touring, we'll do that where your options become so limited. I know Ted Siegel tells me about, like, you get really you really start to lose your tolerance of Subway over time because there's always a Subway. It's in any strip mall, Yeah. And it's just it's quasi healthy food. It's not really that healthy, but it's like it's advertised as such, and it's always a sandwich you can get, and you really start to get burnt out on Subway on the road for sure.
Yeah, this weird thing about that. I learned recently that apparently their bread is not technically bread. Because it has so much sugar in it that apparently it's like, yeah, it's weird. It's just like, how can you have bread that's not classified technically as bread? Weird, bizarre.
Come to think of it, I'm not a fan of it myself. I found like you over the healthier bread and Subway. I can't believe we're talking about this, but it tastes like cardboard, and I'm really. It's really it's just like, man, I know this is the healthier option, but this tastes really bad.
Right. Oh my, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, so also I was gonna say, so other than the Jack in a Box tacos.
Oh yeah, please.
Another part of the kind of like secret band ritual. If nobody has mentioned it so far, is going back to the band house and watching the band's
The Last Waltz
movie, The Last Waltz. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, love that movie.
Every time,
good.
Apparently, right?
So good every time. It's just
all
like,
right.
yeah, you have to.
Does that become white noise? Like, like, oh, I know this is all right. Like Joni Mitchell's coming on, we're gonna watch that, but I don't have to watch like Van Morrison.
I feel like I had the same attention for it. Just like it's just great. It's just. I was gonna say it's underrated, mostly because it's just I feel like before Planets I never really knew that concert film at all. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I knew about the first time I saw that movie. I did not know who the hell the band was. I knew about the people that were in it. I knew about this. I was sort of sold on this jam session that was actually a special, like an outtake. That had like, oh, Ringo's in it. I'm like, okay, so I'll watch it. And Ringo shows up for the session, the jam session, but nothing else.
Right.
And I knew about the album, the live album, but like I watched it and I'm like, okay, This is interesting. Like I thought it was a little like I said, didn't really know who the band was, so it was kind of on the, dare I say, it was a little boring because I wasn't really aware of the songs, and I think whatever I was listening to was a little more probably more musically dynamic in like in a progressive rock sort of way, like
Yeah.
because that was my it's an or art rock, if you will. So to watch it, and it makes, but you know, it's sort of like bands like Wilco and a few other acts. I can't think of who they are, but there's like these they sort of seed in, like they sort of take root. So you know it's good, and you've been told it's good, and you keep listening, and after a time, then you finally, like maybe a third or fourth listen, it gets you, and it's like, oh, I get it now. I think Neutral Milk Hotel did that too, where you're like, okay, this is good, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, this is like the best thing I've ever heard. I can totally understand when it comes to The Last Waltz. Also, just the way it's shot and everything. It's sort of a really interesting, Scorsese's, sort of touch on the whole thing is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'll definitely say that it definitely grew on me. And there's certain songs that just like, I just immediately just like, I don't know. It's weird. They just get you. I don't know. It's just, and I feel like, yeah, it's just definitely hearing, like watching it multiple times, got into my brain. But
Yeah. I also, the other thing about that show is it kind of like doing like your like the research on like the history of like how that all went down, and like some of the weird infighting in the back between like Neil Diamond. Like no one really wanted Neil Diamond apparently, but like except for Robbie, and Levon didn't care. I feel like Levon got like the raw deal out of this whole thing, where it's like, yeah, it's like whatever Robbie wanted to do, we just did it. So there's a sort of a strange dynamic if you're like a history fan like myself that like likes to get into the minutia of like the weird backroom deals of things like that.
Yeah.
All that aside, I think when you see things like the Father Time specials and the just the planet shows themselves, you can really make sense how that movie really becomes a key influence on how the dynamic of all the people involved really kind of gel. So that makes total sense. I find it fascinating that there's always movies that never get old for people. Like it's always rewatchable,
right?
And that seems, I guess that's one of them for I guess that counts.
All right.
Yep. Peace. Anyway, no, sorry, man.
It's all good.
So how does Beers for Fears find its way into this, or is that just how did that come about?
Yeah, so that was very interesting. It was something that was kind of just kind of organic. So yeah, so that initially started because I was playing the Nintendo Switch game Breath of the Wild, and my homie Victor was over, and he was playing guitar. I had an acoustic guitar that I think I had like bought from a pawn shop, and was like not exactly in tune or anything. And he started playing a melody on it, and he asked me to start like randomly singing like words or lyrics to what he was writing, and I still can't remember like how that came about. It was just kind of an organic moment. I just started singing whatever came to mind, and kind of like thematically it was kind of related to the game I was playing. Okay. So that was kind of like why the lyrics are kind of like adventure-y, kind of like medieval, kind of like wizards and skeletons and that sort of thing, because that was kind of like the fantasy nature of the game I was playing. So that's just kind of how that happened. And we just kind of recorded it on a whim. I think it was just as an iPhone memo. and like posted it on SoundCloud, and it was just like, this is a funny thing that we did, and then people liked it, and we were like, but this is just a funny thing. um, and we ended up doing a similar thing, and we did like a second song in the same way, kind of like the same kind of organic way, and people liked that as well. And so, being that Planets had their sort of weekly Casey's residency, we basically, Adam was like, it's like, you guys are playing a show. And like, it's like, at that time, it was just me and Victor. And like, I had not done a lot of singing. I've done a lot of kind of karaoke things. I did sing in a very short-lived 90s cover band called Beards. I don't know, many people know this. Like, literally, we played like one show. It was a thing with me and two other people, and they played instruments, and I sang, and kind of like read off of a sheet of lyrics. And so that was like the one instance I had done that. And so so it was kind of an awkward thing, and kind of just a shell shock playing that first Beers for Fears show as a duo at Casey's. But it was fun. It definitely like learned a lot of things. Some things about that show still crack me up, because I appreciate that people were there and they took video and photos and whatnot, but it's really funny. It's like funny / embarrassing that like you can see me holding up my phone and reading the lyrics off of the phone, because I had no sense of like memorization. Like I was having a hard time trying to make things stick in my mind. And maybe some of it had to do probably with just like the style of the way I had written like the lyrics and stuff, like, because I'm not like classically trained in any sort of music way. So it's like, I don't know like I don't know the standard like song structures and anything like that. So it's just kind of like me kind of fumbling through and kind of learning. Yeah. So that was, basically Adam and Planets kind of catapulted us into, doing our first show, and it was awkward, but like, I appreciate it too. Cause it was just like, if he hadn't have done that and set that in motion, we might not have done it,
Sure.
So, sometimes you need, so I like that. Cause it's just like, sometimes you just need that, like that metaphorical kick in the ass, just to get things going. And I appreciated that kick in the ass. So
that's great. That's because I see, there's once in a while I see that, some footage or photos of you guys playing. I don't know if you guys actually play Echo Park Rising at one point in one of those vibes? Am I mistaken about that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we did play Echo Park Rising. We played a couple of Echo Park Risings. We played one at kind of like an art gallery, like small art gallery space.
Okay.
That was the first one we played, and then we played a show, I think it was like the next year, at the American Barber Shop for Bands in a Barber Shop. Yeah, love that place, Bands in a Barber Shop. And I don't know if you're familiar.
I don't think I am.
The Satellite and the 6660s were putting on these Bands in a Barbershop shows, and they're fantastic. They were trying to do some kind of like, social distance live streaming things that they've been doing off and on, but it's just not the same, from a
no.
that live show experience,
Let's talk venues here. Is there a place that you preferred an experience? You prefer? Yeah. Is there? I mean, yeah.
Like favorite venues, basically.
Yeah. Like, or is a place that you, if it's not exist anymore, you can like for example, is there a place like I would say? I don't want to talk shit on anybody either, so I want to say best and worst, but maybe let's just go with the best. So
okay.
Yeah, what was your like your top? Let's say the top 3 favorite venues. If you have 5, we'll do 5.
Top 3. Well, I mean, holds a place in my heart. Definitely Casey's. like yeah, Casey's Irish Pub, the Satellite, and let's see. We're gonna go three. I got to put, and these aren't really like necessarily in any sort of ranking because a lot of these
That's fine. Yeah.
I enjoy them for for various reasons. I love them equally. Um, but another one that just I immediately latched onto when I first came here, and I probably saw more shows. The Troubadour was like one of those venues where um, I think I had initially started seeing a bunch of the larger bands
Mm-hmm.
there, um, and it was one of those places where it always struck me as just like the great balance between like a smaller venue and a larger venue. I guess it's just kind of it's in that medium sort of venue space, and I always enjoyed like I've gone to a lot of shows there, but like there would be times where like maybe I would see like one show a month or one show every couple of months, and like without fail, I would go in there, and when I went to the bar, the bartender would be like, "You want a Guinness, right?" And I was just like, ah. It's just like one of those places where, it's just like if you hadn't been there for a while and you showed up, like it was like it's like coming home. It's
Right.
just like
Right.
it's just like it was always it's like coming home again. It's just like it's always welcoming. Yeah, it's just like so that I've got a lot of like nostalgia and like good times associated with the Troubadour.
That's
Um,
good. I don't think I've only been there once, and it was not for a gig. It was for a delivery. It's a place I should go when this someday this will all be over.
yeah, highly recommend. Highly recommend.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, someday this thing this pandemic vibe it will be over. What are the big things you're looking forward to when to like coming back? Like I know there's certain places that kind of passed on with the pandemic, but it's another staple I gotta ask people is you know things they're excited about on a forward thinking level.
I mean, I mean, honestly, I can't wait to be able to just go to like a bar again and hang out and drink. Drink with some friends at the bar, eat some food, like be able to like hug people. It's like it seems like such a like a very like small thing, but it's just so weird that like these things that we just kind of took for granted that you can't do anymore, and it's just very such a weird like such a weird thing.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be. I'm hoping for a really nice. This is well, what I'm hoping is to actually, some of these people I actually haven't met that I've talked to. So I'm actually looking forward to meeting them face to face, like on a oh yeah we talked before kind of level, you know. So I'm really looking. I'm looking forward to that. I actually should ask you this because we do have a little bit of a division, a foodie division called Lost Bites. My colleague Ryan Pressman basically has a giant spreadsheet basically that he's been meaning to kind of so we're basically putting on a separate Instagram page called Lost.Bites. We have our own. He's been basically posting every other day some of his favorite food picks,
Okay.
and I do the coffee section on Fridays, and he does the beer and stuff. But I'd like to ask you because restaurants are having a hard time trying to make ends meet. Is there anything that you would recommend people going out to check out off the top of your head that they should be supporting while for takeout or delivery or anything to help them out on the bottom
Yeah.
line?
Okay. Let's see. Things I can think of right off the top of my head. I'm a huge fan of local coffee shop by the name of Bolt. They're based out of Hollywood. They have a couple of Hollywood locations. Um, they have amazing breakfast sandwiches, great cold brew coffee. So that right on the coffee angle there, they're great. Yeah, highly recommend them. They're also amazing baked goods. But yeah, they're still open for takeout. Other people, I would say, um, the first one I was gonna say Blue Palms Brew House, but um, they are currently not open. But once those guys open, again, they would be ones to check out. Um, Also, if you're a fan of like East Coast style pizza, um, the Elbow Room in Hollywood has amazing pizza. They're actually just right off of Cahuenga, around the corner from Stout, um, but they're excellent. Um, Trying to think of, there's just so many different things, but those are the ones that I could think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, and if there's anything you recommend, just let me know on. You can message me on and anything like that too, because
Sure.
we're always open for ideas,
Nice.
and things like that.
I just wanted to um, reinforce the one thing that really drew me to the planets community. There's kind of a stigma like in Los Angeles that maybe like that people in Los Angeles are not necessarily like the most friendly people.
Mm-hmm.
But I've noticed with the Janks community and with planets, just like it's just interesting. It's just like usually when I'm a fan of bands, I get kind of like overly like super fan, crazy about the bands, and
That's a great way to go.
and I feel like maybe like I get to a point where I'm just like oh, I'm gonna think I'm just this weird dude. It is just super obsessed with the band, and I'm just like, but I feel like with these bands in this community, it was just organic. It just became, I was showing up to these shows, but it's just like we just became buds, and it wasn't just like me trying to like, you know, be like a weird obsessed super fan. Um, it was just like, enjoying the music, hanging out, and and like enjoying the people. They're great, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just like it's just kind of a gradual, kind of organic thing, and yeah,
I have to say that's one of the things I've admired about you the most is that you have that super fan passion for these bands and groups and that are very small, local, that could really use someone like that. So that like a really good like that kind of I think in the business world they call them early adopters.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Or they, it's like, people that really, will go, or actually, I think super fan is the actual term for like, in the music biz, when they're trying to like, if you're an independent musician, you really need that person to kind of carry the message of, this is sort of like on a marketing level. I don't want to sound too cold about that, but but seriously, it's something like I think I mentioned something earlier about sound guy cynicism. It's something I have,
Yeah.
where it's like I've been through one of those nights where I see like dad rock cover bands played by actual dads on bar band night,
Oh my god.
I've been through those, man. And they're like, in some where they're playing, they're like major, not major, but they're like local at their local like festival or carnival or like, I mean like the California Strawberry Festival in Oxnard or somewhere where it's like,
Yeah.
like I've mixed some of those shows where I'm like, wow, this band is really or it's like or that or their tribute acts where it's like out of Vegas. And we have friends that are in tribute acts that play in Vegas, but that's a different
Right.
it's different. And,
Definitely different caliber.
For sure. So it's a level of but some of those groups that you could tell that are like, yeah, that's bar band next door, and it's you kind of roll. It's like, wow, I wish I could have XYZ bands that I enjoy play those shows instead of these people, and it's like, why, and so I have that kind of. It's not I wouldn't say it's a critical ear, but it's like it's sort of things have to really kind of certain things have to kind of really move me. So anyway, it
takes a lot to get your notice, basically.
A little bit, yeah. And it sounds like I have this like I don't want to sound like I have this bad filter. I really, cause I don't, but it's and I think that's part of this series for me is getting to know the people that have the opposite of that, where it's like, dude, check this out. Like, it's totally not that. If that makes any sense? Where got it. Like I think it's been well stated at this point for me that talking with the 2016 Father Time Christmas special being a very key point in finding out that's the first time I ever heard of Adam. Because I met these guys, like same as you. I met all these people through the Janks.
Yep.
Very same, and I met the Janks through the Deltas. So it's awesome. My story into this is such a strange thing. So I really should thank Cal State Northridge for being for like, it's a strange thing. What if I just didn't go to that school? I wouldn't have met these people. I wouldn't have met these people.
Oh my gosh! So here's another part of it. I totally forgot to mention this. So, the reason I originally discovered the Janks was because I was at a bar near my house in Hollywood, and I was just like getting a drink and eating dinner at a bar, and I ended up talking to this chick. For some reason, like music came up, and I was just, oh yeah, I'm a huge fan of live music. And she had written down this thing. She said, oh, go check out this band called the Janks at the Bootleg Theater. They have a residency. And I was like, oh, cool. That sounds cool. And I ended up seeing them and went to each show of that residency. And if I had not met the Janks, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of this community. Maybe I would have gradually discovered the community, but I may not have, just out of this one random, like chance encounter, like I wouldn't have known about the Janks and I wouldn't have known about PLaNETS and any of the countless other local bands that I've discovered from that.
That's crazy.
So it's weird. It was just a random, yeah.
Yeah, the wow. Janks, yeah, the Zemeds themselves, I replaced Kevin Bacon with the Zemeds as far as a 6 Degree game.
Oh, because that's awesome. Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, because it's like I swear. So I mean I think it's around the time I met you as well, in like late 2015 or mid 2015, and around 2014 I became aware of King Washington.
Yes,
and it's a band that my uncle did sound for at that same one of those same fiestas I was referring to.
Oh wow!
Like in Camarillo, because George is from Camarillo.
Okay.
And it was like, wow, you gotta check. These are really good. They write really good songs. They sing amazing. They have awesome harmonies. It's crazy stuff. And it also just so happens that like, they were produced by Joe Puerta from Ambrosia, right? And so on top of that, I go, okay, and I checked them out. I was listening to them in like, ironically enough, a lot in like Nashville, which it's where the Zemeds are now. But I met the Zemeds in like late 2014, from the cinema bar with the Deltas always playing there.
Right.
And I went to, and that was around the time that King Washington came back from like a New York residency they did, and they were playing at the Hotel Cafe every Monday night, Friday, one of those like residencies and then it turns out that like one of those days that that the Deltas, the Janks were playing at the Silver Lake Lounge, and that's where I met David Sparrow.
Oh, okay.
This is all happening really fast, and then it turns out later that month they were actually doing a 4-night thing where it was like it was Burning Jet Black, the Janks, King Washington at like the last night of that residency, I think. I don't know if you went there.
I'm not sure. I did. There's a very strong possibility that I did.
I have a feeling.
But I can't remember offhand. But probably.
Anyway, I don't know if
I love me some King Washington as well. So
I miss those guys. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. It turns out that it's just a strange world, and that I found out that I was gonna ditch the show at the Silver Lake Lounge after I finished seeing the Janks, and the Deltas played before that. I was gonna drive all the way back to Coanga to see the King Washington group, and I don't know where along the lines. Oh yeah, I had to play with those guys, and it turns out this is where I found out that Zach knows everybody, or Zach and Dylan know everybody,
right?
And I think this is also where I photobombed them at a show. Okay. Anyway, I guess it's I go to the King Washington. Joe Puerta's there from Ambrosia, and I've like my sound company that I work with, that is just our family business, if you will. Basically, we've worked with Ambrosia a couple times.
Okay.
And then it turns out that Zach and Dylan are using the Ambrosia, but not only they partnered with Burley McDowell Drummond, which is the son of Burley Drummond, who's the drummer for Ambrosia.
Oh, I didn't realize that's what Burley's connections was. I didn't realize that. Oh,
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then they basically started using their manager or agent, to book all the Everly Brothers shows, because that's how they got. So it's you see what I mean, where everything's like sort of like there's somehow it's trippy. It's so trippy. And I started realizing there's like these I was reading not Outliers, but Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, and that's the book where he talks about the mavens, the connectors, the salesmen, like how things kind of grow and spread and stuff. And
okay,
for the most part, it was like I'm not sure if I bought into everything in that book, but like the first part of that was basically about, the cool part for me was the connectors, and that was the kind of how in the hell does everybody know these two people on top of all this other stuff. And it turns out, Dylan went to Channel Islands out here in Camarillo and then they know, we have a mutual friend who does lighting that we've known for years. It's like, it's bizarre how, and then, stuff out here in Oxnard with Drum Channel, DW, they recorded Janks recorded their first album out here in Oxnard at DW's studio, the drum company.
Okay.
And I knew the guys that recorded that before I knew any of those. It's a whole, it's so trippy. Yeah, I mean, it's like
going down the rabbit hole. That's crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, that's there's my crazy crazy connection. I hope everybody stayed patient with that. Hear it. I don't think I want to edit that because that's a lot to edit. So anyway, yeah, I'm really hoping. I think I'll close it. I'll throw that idea your way. This one I was talking to Joe about with is there a possibility of you being such a sort of a supporter of all these groups, and of course I know you're kind of a big is foodie a good word for, is that
foodie, that works,
or foodie, so I was like, I threw Joe the same question of like, is there an idea that is there a possibility that this is something you might be interested in doing, of like, with all these venues going down, and some of them, or not down, but like say the satellite, shifting gears,
right?
Is there something that would that be a possibility if let's say money was not an object? Is that something you'd kind of, is that something that might pique your interest?
I would, yeah. Like I've always I've definitely had that in my brain. Like if I had the opportunity to run a venue of some sorts, like God, that would definitely be an awesome dream. But yeah, if money was no object.
Yeah, I have to throw that qualification in there. If money was an object, which it is.
No, that would be amazing. I mean, it would be like a kid in a candy shop. It would be like if I had the opportunity to be able to pick and book. Oh yeah, if I could book music, or if I was involved in that aspect of it, I would absolutely love it.
Yeah. And I think the reason I ask you and Joe this is because, you guys have been one of the two of the bigger loudspeakers, for supporting a lot of these artists. And so I think we really kind of need the next CBGBs, the next Marquee Club, the next, even the next Avalon Ballroom. I'm just trying to name venues that I think we're really like the next Fillmore. You know what I mean?
Right.
That kind of cool, that cool hangout that we can all kind of go to, because like I said, we've lost some of them. And for me, as someone who is, I will say, is late to the party, didn't really get a chance to enjoy it or get the full experience. And I say that as if their planets is no longer a thing. I still think that, I believe they have plans, and I know they have. It's just all depending on who's available and what they want to do.
Exactly. It's all according to plan.
Yeah.
There's always plans and scheming, and yeah. Actually, one thing I was kind of playing around in my mind and kind of interested is, I wonder, with times being how they are. If things like a speakeasy concept for live music, if that might end up being becoming a thing. Some of these underground sort of live music club situations will happen more often, or
I know that's kind of what So Far was doing, right? A little bit?
Yes. Yeah, basically. Yeah, they were basically doing that. Kind of like a renegade under the radar sort of yeah, they were doing that. I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
I mean, I think there's room for expansion for that, for sure, because it's hard to do something like a Planets or something as big, or it's very, I think So Far can do it in a very intimate setting between a small group or a singer-songwriter combination, or an acoustic vibe. It would be cool to see, although they did say that Nathaniel and Nick did say they basically made that show to fit anywhere. They were very used to be able to sneak, they could do it. So it would be interesting. I think, if that'd be something to expand upon, for sure, because I think it's interesting. It depends, and also it has to resonate with something like this would resonate with people. If I had some sort of act that that was out of nowhere that I wanted to promote a show for, and for me, my social media clout is not that great. People just didn't seem to care when I posted it. It's okay, cool. Sure. It's the maybes on the Facebook the Facebook event page, where you're always putting the maybes, where it's I want to go, but I really don't feel like it. I don't really feel like driving down, which is something I've always had that issue with Ventura county-based people, just because it's hard to get people down to go to Los Angeles anyway, when, you know, we'd rather be up in Santa Barbara, or rather just be in our own house doing whatever. So it's
like two different worlds, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think I might be having an enlightenment feeling right now, just because, like, oh yeah, that would make sense. We have like, you know, it's very quiet, and we have houses we could stay in and just jam, and there's no real place to go. Where I can't speak for most people in the city, but it feels like, you know, there's more of an energy that you'd want to go places. You know, there's bars, you know, I mean, like the fact that you mentioned the Red Line, I almost forgot we had a Red Line, you know?
Right.
I always think of, oh yeah, I have to go down to downtown LA. I remember when I went to Casey's, I'm trying to remember where I parked and how much I paid for it, you know? So those things will add up over time. And of course, like, you're in downtown LA, so it's a little bit of like, oh man, do I really want to be in downtown LA at like 2 a.m? I don't know. You know, those things sort of build up in those situations. But
fair enough. Yeah,
you know,
I can understand that.
But I forgot about the Red Line. So it's like, hey, you can drink, and it'd be great. You don't have to drive. You take, you know, by the time you get back, you know, you're probably sobered up, or you're good to drive again, or wherever you're going. Or actually, if you're in Hollywood, you never actually, because I think it's the Red Line, if I'm not mistaken, starts in North Hollywood, right? Or northern.
Yes,
in the valley.
Basically starts in North Hollywood, and then, ends downtownish.
Okay, yeah. It stops at like Sunset and Vine and or Hollywood and Vine.
Hollywood and Vine, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I remember taking that once or twice to get to. I remember in college, for the first 2 years, I didn't have a car, and I was in Cal State Northridge, so I was living in the Valley, which is like, in a college campus, it's not as exciting as it sounds. Especially in the Valley, but I remember like these trips down to Amoeba. We're like, when it would take the entire day to get down there. And we'd take the Orange Line, the bus. It would take you to like the Red Line. That would take you to, you know, Hollywood and Vine. You'd walk down to Sunset to go to Amoeba, and then, you know, do it all over again. It was actually kind of, without a car, it was like, it felt really. I might cut this. It felt kind of depressing. Really, how big the city is and how long it takes on a bus to get from point A to point B.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
Yeah,
I understand this.
But yeah. But yeah, so as soon as I got that car, it was great. Got my car. I had a car. I just had to get it down on campus. Was the trick. But. All right, I think we're about ready to wrap.
One other thing I wanted to say.
Oh yeah, please.
So I wanted to say, since I noticed it was brought up in the first 2 episodes, I wanted to say I listened to Peter Gabriel's Secret World live.
Oh, nice.
before this. So
okay, great.
Because I don't think I had ever watched that film. I'm definitely definitely a big Peter Gabriel fan, but I had just never watched that particular concert film. And I have to reiterate that's it was awesome. And I could see where you could see like some of the theatrics and things that Planets does kind of on that same sort of page.
Right, we're like playing with the screen and having the special camera stuff, and the tree, and I believe I sort of believe in like imprinting on childhood things. You know, like for some, like if you get, you know, I don't know if there's any. It's kind of like when you have like when a child knows who the mother is or doesn't have a mother, and they start looking to someone for parental attention or parental, you know, protection or whatever. You know, like they kind of, you know, I think of Jurassic World with the raptors. You know, for some reason, I imprint them when they're young. Like, but you know, that's one of those things where no matter what, like, musical trend, you could always have like a few things from your childhood that are sometimes you find cheesy at times, but you can't defend, or you'll always defend, rather. You can always you'll always have that with you, and that was one of those first records I always kind of turned to, and yeah. So I'm glad you were able to check out the video, because it's a cool show for sure, and the playing is amazing. I love those Tony Levin and Manu Katché. And
is Ravi Shankar one of the players as well?
No, it's his name is Shankar, but he's not.
Okay.
It's a little bit different. He wasn't. Yeah, Ravi he's a little young for Ravi, but I think what happened is, you know, Peter's got the Real World label, so he's got that whole network of world musicians from everywhere. Right. So he's like working with like everybody from like India and Africa and you know, South America, and like, you know, these so that, I mean, that's been a big passion of his. So I think that was his I forgot his actual name, but he's known as Shankar. It's spelled the same way. I knew that before I knew Ravi. I knew about him before I knew about Ravi Shankar.
Okay.
Because
maybe his first name is Shankar.
You know what? I'm gonna take.
Yeah, now I'm curious.
I'm gonna look it up for you right now. Actually, hang tight. L. Shankar is his name. I can't pronounce it.
Lakshminarayana.
Yeah. Better known as L. Shankar. So he's Indian and he's a violinist. I'm just buzzing through his Wikipedia here. Sri Lankan. So it's not. So essentially, he's not the sitar player, but
okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he's got that very cool violin sound that kind of really kind of peers into the soul there. It's a cool thing. So, yeah. So I'm glad you dug it, for sure. It's a cool album. You check it out. Yeah. So I want to thank you so much for making the scene, man. I really appreciate it. I really hope we could see each other in a venue sometime soon.
Oh man, that's the dream. yeah, man. I appreciate you doing this. I've enjoyed each episode so far. So this is a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it for doing this, man.
I'm really happy that everybody's been so welcoming to this. All right.